What if life got 10 times harder next month? I mean, like 10 times harder. What if you got a diagnosis, or what if the phone rang and it's your best friend or your mom? Or what if the relationship that matters most to you goes off the rails? I don't think in your current power situation that you could have the lights come on. What if it went up 10 times? What if it went up 20 times? So people experience tragedy all the time, and we look in on that and we don't internalize it to ourselves and say, what if that happened to me? Would I be able to even get through something like that? Would it warp me? Would it change me? Would it make me something hateful? Now Jesus says something a bit shocking. Electricity. Early church. Jesus says, no one puts new wine into old wineskins. It's like, guys, I need to do a panel change. I'm not just upsizing the panel, I'm upsizing the power coming in. He goes, but nobody puts new wine into old wineskins. And you're like, that makes sense with my wineskin situation. What he's saying is, like, I can't plug the promised land into wilderness thinking, into a wilderness soul. I can't make your marriage a promised land if you're still in the wilderness personally. And he goes, the new wine would burst the wineskins, spilling the wine and ruining the skins. So the reason this happens is because new wine, and new wine speaks of the Holy Spirit, new wine comes in and it's still fermenting and expanding. But the old the old wineskin, is already expanded about as far as it's going to go. So he's like, I have to increase the capacity of your life and your soul. I have to increase it so that the increase of the new power is going to push its boundaries out. And this is what worries us about the Holy Spirit, is because we're like, I don't know that I can. And Jesus is like, no, you can't actually. I need to unmake what you've got so that I can redo it and give you like a whole new one. And Jesus says, new wine must be stored in new wineskins. And then he says something here that this is the shocking part.
Oh, shocking, got it.
Yeah. There's somebody who works for me right there. He says, but no one who drinks the old wine seems to want the new wine. The old is just fine, they say. I've been thinking about this all week. I'm like, what? So why do we stick with the screwdriver? Why do we keep going back to the screwdriver? Why do we keep going back to the old habits and the old ways? And like, we know it's not enough. Why do we keep going back there? You keep trying to solve the problem the same way that it didn't work the last 30 times, and we're going to do it again, you know? Why do we get so stuck in our thinking and in our sin? He says, no one. It's a human condition for every single one of you. He says, nobody who's just been drinking the old stuff seems to prefer the new stuff. It takes time to learn to like it. When you're used to something that doesn't need to expand you anymore. I mean, it's different, you know. I think we like the screwdriver because at least we could control it, right? It's us doing the controlling. It wasn't stronger than you. But a power drill is a bit different. You gotta, like, when you pull the trigger, you gotta hang on. It's taking you for a ride now. All you can do is point it, you know. We had a whole hog there, these big drills, and I was drilling a planer bit, and I hit a nail one time coming through, and the whole hog is so much torque that you're holding it like this. It swung around and broke my face, basically. It broke my nose, right? And so, boom. Renee, remind me to write this in. I didn't write this in, but it breaks my nose, and then my boss walks down the stairs, and this is, again, in those days where nobody is like, oh, your nose looks broken. And so I was just like this, and he's explaining what to do, and I'm like, looking around. Yeah, my face is just caved in, and I'm starting to, like, bleed down here, and I'm just like, watching, and like, oh, this hurts so much. I went home an hour early that day, actually. Anyways, I never did go get it fixed because I'm like, it hurts so much. Nobody's touching this. Some of those guys, those old hockey boys that are like, let's just snap it back in place. I'm like, no, man, I will have breathing problems forever, and which is true. Like, nobody's touching that. But listen, you have to respect the power. Nobody drove a spike with a hammer through their own finger. start the nail. Yeah. Nobody does that, but I've shot myself with an air nailer. This is in the old days I was framing houses, you're like, just like, pull it out, electrical tape it, back to work. So, nobody cut off their fingers with a hacksaw. That would take some work. A hacksaw, like, ow, 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 ow. That's good. Make me write that in my note too. I just wrote that. There is one word that keeps you from the power of the Holy Spirit. One word that keeps you from more of it. Are you ready? It's not a word that Canadian society thinks is a bad word. It's called survival. 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 Survival is like, hey, keep all your fingers. Hey, if you're dating somebody, you're thinking about getting married, and you're like, okay, so my main thing and my main caveat is like, I need to survive. That makes for a terrible relationship. Survive. Hold on. You come to Jesus and you're like, okay, but I need to survive. Some stuff happened to me. I'm coming to you to save me from all the pain. But before every prayer, my main thing that I want you to do is help me survive. Like, this is all about me making it. In God's kingdom, surviving is the enemy of thriving. The cocoon is the enemy of the butterfly. It's safe. Flying out there is not safe, but it's still where you're supposed to be. A hammer, a hacksaw is safer, but it won't build what God called you to build. It will not fulfill you because all you can do is maintain with it, but you can't go out and build with it, and you can't go out and change the world around you. Survival says this: my number one priority is keeping my life safe. Jesus says, actually, you have to lose your life if you want to find it. Yeah. Like, well, that doesn't make any sense. That's because you're not operating in the power yet. If the betrayal in your life went up 10 times next month, how would you get through it? You hardly got through the last one. Well, what if there was like 100 times more power operating from the inside of you, and you're in the middle of it, and you're like, I don't know how I should be forgiving this, but I am. I don't know how I'm okay, but I am. Listen, the wilderness is okay if all you want to do is not die. But the promised land, man, it gets amped up out there. Nobody in the wilderness is trying to kill you except you. They were complaining to God that the situation they were in was so hard. They're like, I'm not surviving this. And this is what God said to them. Maybe it was the monk on the dark side of the mountain. This is what God said to them. I didn't say you'd survive this. I'm not in it for your survival. I'm in it for you to thrive. I'm in it for you to take up your cross daily. Listen, nobody escapes the cross, guys. The cross is not like a thing that's in the middle of something good and something good. It's like the thing that takes you to die. There was nobody who ever got off of a cross. They died there. That's take up your cross daily, Jesus says, and follow death to self, death to survival. As long as you are trying to survive, the devil can put a gun to your head and make you do stuff. But if you've given up your life so that you can find it, Jesus is like, good, now I own it. Nobody survives the cross. And Jesus does not resurrect survivors. You want your marriage to thrive? You got to die. You got to die to self, and you got to die to all those like survival instincts. You got to trust in the Lord.